Hello everybody, today we're going to be making pineapple cider. This is the first in a series of videos where we make every single BJCP cider style, and if I get around to it, making the Perry styles as well. This style is style C2B for fruited cider, and it is my favorite personal cider style. I like this style because it is easy to make. And you can get a lot of variety based off the amount of fruits or the quantity of fruit you add into it, the combination of fruits. It's just really it's a really cool expression of both the apple and the fruit that you put into it. So today we're going to be making a particularly difficult cider to make, which is a pineapple cider. I'll get to the reason why it's difficult in a second, but let's go over the ingredients. To start out with, we have 4 gallons of filtered apple juice. We have 2 gallons of pasteurized pineapple juice, a cider starter that uses both the pineapple juice and the apple juice in the ratio that we're using, so 1 part pineapple juice, 2 parts apple juice, a pound of frozen pineapple chunks, 2 limes and the juices from them and the peels from that. Our nutrient combination that we're going to have is 25 grams of diammonium phosphate, or 2 tablespoons, 4.5 grams, or 2 teaspoons of white wine tannin, it's FT Blanc, 30 grams of pectic enzyme, or 3 tablespoons, the juice of these 2 limes, I think I already said that, and did I get the diammonium? Oh, yep, 12 grams of fermento as well. To back sweeten the cider, we're going to be using 1 can of apple juice concentrate and 2 cans of pineapple juice concentrate, and combining that with 2 tablespoons of potassium sorbate and 6 Camden tablets beforehand to stabilize it before we put the actual cider over there. This is going to be a pressurized ferment. We have our Firmzilla All-Rounder. It's going to be at 15 psi for that. And the yeast we have selected is Premier Cote de Blanc from Red Star. I think that's it for all the ingredients. Let's talk a little bit about the style. Okay, so this is cider style C2B. The appearance of this cider, it really depends on the color. Really depends on the added fruit you're going to add to it. Because we're adding mostly yellow coloring to it, it's probably going to be a slightly yellowish hint compared to the normal kind of amber hint that we have to cider. The aroma, the appearance also is supposed to be clear to brilliant. So all the BJCP styles for cider are clear to brilliant for the clarity of the cider, which is different than the Amercican Cidermakers, USACM. So while USACM allows hazy ciders, the BJCP does not. The aroma and flavor of it, so we want to have the cider character present, so some sort of apple on the nose and apple flavor, but it must also have the other fruit present in the aroma. So the aroma is a big portion of the overall flavor experience, so we're going to want to make sure we preserve that aroma, which is why we are fermenting it under pressure. So the mouthfeel of this is substantial, and the tannin content depends on the fruit. We are going to be making some choices to go ahead and increase the mouthfeel. I'll talk about that in just a minute. The final alcohol volumes, alcohol by volume is between 5 to 9%, which is common with this variety of cider. And the carbonation level, it's going to be choosing a pétillant carbonation style. That's my personal preference for carbonation for ciders. Sweetness, this is actually going to be sweeter than my normal cider. It's going to be targeting medium sweetness. And it's required to specify all the fruit added. So if we were to make an entry into a competition, we would have to specify we both added lime, apple, and pineapple. So that is it for the style criteria. All right, let's talk a little bit about recipe building for this. Doing some research for pineapple ciders, I personally had the Aces pineapple cider in the stores, and it's really good. And I was kind of trying to, that's what sparked this need to recreate that recipe. I haven't really found a very good clone recipe online, and most of the recipes that I've found are kind of hit or miss based off of the success of it. Most of the criticisms of pineapple ciders that people have tried is that the pineapple flavor doesn't really come through post-fermentation. It loses a lot of the aroma, and it's kind of watery. And that appears to be, and this is my personal deduction, it appears to be due to the enzymes that are present within the cider. These are called Bromelain enzymes. They break down free proteins, which in general is pretty good for digestive health, but one of the three things that kind of gives body to a cider is the three dissolved macro organic molecules, proteins, carbs, and fats. So if you eliminate one of them completely, say a pineapple digests all of the free proteins, it kind of makes it so it has that watery feel to it. So we're going to try and compensate with the other two macronutrients by trying to get some lipids and carbs suspended within there. So, also, a lot of the research I showed online is when people had successful ciders, they did not use frozen or fresh pineapples. The reason why is because when you pasteurize pineapple juice, it causes the enzyme to denature that's within it. And I believe that's the reason why the people that did that had success versus the people that did not. So we're going to do a couple things to combat that. The first of which is we're going to try and get some lipids into the solution. My first thought was to just use hops. But hops is not compatible with this style. Hops uses, it would be more in line with style C2E, which is a cider with added herbs and spices. It actually explicitly says it out there. If I were to not have to worry about any style criteria, I would definitely use a citrus forward hops, maybe like Citra or one of the other citrus forward hops in small quantities to kind of add body to the cider. But we do not have that luxury, so what we are going to be doing is trying to get citrus oil instead to do that. So what we're going to be doing is trying to get that citrus oil out of this peel. Frozen versus, we're also adding white wine tannin to help build a little bit of that body too. White wine tannins is perfectly acceptable within recipe building for ciders. In this case, we're going to be adding frozen fruit rather than fresh fruit. Frozen fruit is a little bit easier to deal with because the cell walls have already been lysed on the fruit, or a lot of them have been due to the fact that it's been frozen. And frozen fruit generally is picked at the peak of freshness, then bagged. So you also get the freshest possible fruit when you get frozen fruit, which is a bit ironic compared to what they sell in the stores. So it's easier to extract the juice from frozen fruit. All right, let's talk about the next bit. Citrus peel. So the citrus peel, we're just going to have wild yeast growing on the outside of it, just being present in the air. So we're going to want to make sure we sterilize that. So we have a nice little thing of as cheap as possible vodka. I believe I got this for like $7 at Walmart. It's really bad vodka. But it's going to do one job, and that is going to be to kill whatever's on the outside of it. And we'll be doing that. So lime juice, I'm also adding lime juice for a citric acid addition. I kind of want that bright tropical feel to this. Pineapples are also pretty acidic, so that is why we made a cider starter. We want to give the cider the best chance possible to get going. Pectic enzymes. If you may have heard that number, for pectic enzymes, we are doing 30 grams of pectic enzyme. Pectic enzyme in this quantity is a bit absurd, but pectic enzyme is a protein, and proteins are dissolved by fresh pineapple enzymes, the bromelain enzymes. So we need to have more pectin than we normally would to overcome those bromelain enzymes digesting our pectic enzyme. So that's why it's such a large pitch. And lastly, nutrients. We have diammonium phosphate, a good amount of diammonium phosphate in here, about 12 grams. Was it 12 grams? Hold on. Let me get my actual numbers so I don't say things. 25 grams of diammonium phosphate, 12 grams of fermento. Diammonium phosphate is going to act as a quick nutrient source for this, so we're going to get an active fermentation to begin with, and then the fermento will be that nice long-term nutrient addition, so to give it long-term energy. nitrogen is required for yeast health, or you'll start producing off flavors. Okay. All right, we can go ahead and start putting these things together. So step 1 of this process, make a starter. Starter, if you would like to know how to make one, is up here. I've done a video about that. A starter basically allows your yeast to get to a stage where it's reproducing rapidly and gets acclimated to whatever climate you're in. The yeast is going to be in, not you're in. I don't think the yeast need to get acclimated to our climate. So this was a 1/3 pineapple juice, 2/3 apple juice starter. So that is going to be the ratio within our carboy. So that's going to be how it's going to experience that its entire lifespan. So we want to make sure the yeast nice and comfortable in that atmosphere. The next step, clean and sanitize all of our equipment. All this equipment has been cleaned and sanitized. It has been cleaned with some OxiClean Versatile, and it was sanitized with Star San. I like that combination. OxiClean Versatile is way cheaper than PBW, so a little bit of life hack there is use something that's less expensive. Second step is to go ahead and peel our limes. Our limes have been peeled. When you're peeling limes, the ideal thing you want to do is make sure you minimize the amount of pith that you get out, the white stuff on it. You want more green than pith. So we're going to go ahead and set that aside and let it soak in this vodka for a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and just do enough vodka to cover this up. We're going to strain this out to end with. It does not have to be expensive vodka. This is literally being used to sanitize the outside of this lime. So do not worry about using expensive vodka. You're not going to get much of it. So it's just going to soak for like a couple of minutes. Then we're going to take it out with our tongs and put it into our carboy. So the next process would be to, in a microwave, we're going to go ahead and combine, for 1 minute, we're going to combine all of our nutrients. So go ahead, dump all of our nutrients with about 2/3 of a cup of water. And we're going to let this get up to a temperature where it's going to sanitize these nutrients. So be right back. Okay, our nutrients have gone in the microwave for a minute, and it looks absolutely disgusting, as nutrients usually do. Go ahead and stir them around with our sanitized spoon. And let these set aside for a second. This allows them to rehydrate. It's more accessible to the yeast to have rehydrated nutrients. So, set over here. Go ahead and add more funnel to the top of our carboy. And I'm going to go ahead and pull our limes out of this sanitizer. It has been in there long enough. We do not want it to sit in here because we do not want that citrus oil that we're trying to get inside of this to get into this alcohol. It's going to have some extraction, hopefully not much. We also don't want to add this liquid into here because then now we're out of style. That becomes a fortified cider, and a fortified cider is very, very specifically in style C2F, which would be just a specialty cider. So we're just trying to do good practice of our maintenance of our materials. So a lot of this is making sure you're doing the right techniques too. So, okay, so we're going to add, I'm going to take this off for a second. We're going to actually add our frozen pineapple to the bottom of this. It smells really good. Love pineapple. That is a pound of frozen pineapple. And then we're going to add 2 gallons of our apple juice and then 1 gallon of our pineapple juice. What we're actually going to do is add the remainder of the amount that we had to start out with, which was around 3/4 of a gallon of this juice and about, 3/4 of a gallon of this one, a gallon of this one, so overall about 70.75 gallons on the pineapple juice side. I just ramble a lot, so if you aren't following what I'm saying, I apologize. It all makes sense in my head. Apple juice, to top this off. And then we're going to go ahead and add these 2 containers of pineapple juice. When you're selecting juice, it's important to make sure you select juice that is not Does not have preservatives in it, so no sorbates, no sulfites, no benzoates, anything that ends with eights and ites. Try to avoid that. By try to avoid that, or else you're going to have a wildly unsuccessful fermentation. All right. Don't worry about bubbles forming. We're actually trying to introduce oxygen into this. So the more rigorous and bubbly, the better. So now with that's in there, we're going to go ahead and use our gigantic spoon. We're going to go ahead and give this a nice, good, turbulent mix to get a bunch of oxygen mixed into this vessel. I want to make sure we get nice and oxygenated. Yeast likes oxygen to begin with. So, nice and turbulent mix here. Okay, that looks nice and oxygenated. That's the sanitizer. Okay, we're going to go ahead and juice our lime now. So lime into the juicer, face down. I was putting it face up for a while. Apparently that's wrong. Had to have a friend tell us that was wrong. So that's lime juice out. So juice of 2 limes. That is 1 down, and last lime. These are large limes. They are not key limes. If you were to use key limes for this recipe, I'd recommend not. But if you were going to use key limes for this recipe, you're probably going to want to double or even triple the quantity of limes. Key limes are real small. Okay, and we are going to go ahead and add our nutrients into our carboy. Okay, nutrients added. Let's set these aside. And we're going to top those nutrients off with a gallon or half gallon of pineapple juice. It's also important that you put things aside while you're doing any sort of work like this so you keep everything out of your way. And then we're going to add our cider starter. So this should make at least a hiss if it's good to go, which it did. Cider starter in here. This was Red Star Cote de Blanc yeast. I'm going to go ahead and actually stop that process. I made a mistake there. Let's go ahead and revise that mistake, which is we're actually going to give this a little bit of a mix up to make sure that yeast that settles in the bottom is actually in solution there. So go ahead and do that. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That is, woo, vigorous. A lot of CO2 dissolved in there. Okay. Add that into here. Get all that nice, yummy yeast in there. If your yeast ain't happy, you're not going to be happy. Nice yeast slurry there. Gonna let that sit upside down for a little bit, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, well, I love learning things while we're doing this process. That was a mistake to shake it up. Next time, just give it a swirl, and then pour it out after you swirl. Shaking it up, bad call. Okay, but we're gonna go ahead and add our lime into here now. Our lime peel, rather. Get all that lime peel in there. And we're going to top off our cider. And last gallon. I have a sticky mess below me because I shook that up. Don't shake it up. Next time, just twist, swirl and pour. No shaking. I wonder if somebody saw that and was like, oh my goodness, what is he doing? And then like, yep, that was the logical response from that. So, all right. Got a nice little turbulent thing here. We're gonna get all of that wonderful juice in there. And we're gonna go ahead and take a hydrometer reading now. Now, one thing I want to preface with this hydrometer reading is that it is not going to be accurate for one simple fact, is that we added fresh fruit. So what we're going to do with this hydrometer saying is this is what the minimum gravity that we're starting at is. We can't get below this. We will get above it when we go through our fermentation. So head down to the bottom and get an idea. That's pretty interesting looking juice in there. All right. It is at 1.050. I don't know why I expect anything else. Supermarket juice is pretty usually that. So let me go ahead and side over here. Wine thief does not like the side of these carboys, so just let it drain slowly. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and do the potentially bad idea, which is just dump it into here like that. Perfect. That worked out well. Doesn't always work out well. Sometimes you break your hydrometer, and then the next time you get one that doesn't break. Okay, last bit that we're going to do, and I'm sorry for all the sweet crunching underneath me, is add this large amount of pectic enzyme. We're just going to go ahead and give this a nice good dump into here. And we're going to get one final swirl to oxygenate fully. Going to go ahead and do some mixing too while we're at it. Get a little bit of turbulence in here to mix some oxygen in. All right. There we go. Some maintenance items is we're going to be daily swirling this to break up the fruit cap on top. But we're going to go ahead and put this on, set it pressurized to 15 psi and let it go for a few weeks, giving it a daily swirl to mix up that fruit cap. But that's it. This is the beginning process of starting your pineapple cider. And we'll check back in a few weeks.